Hi there! In this video, I'll demonstrate how to install, activate, and use InBar script, a tool for constructing bar graphs in InDesign. To receive your activation code and download link, send an email to inbar.scripts@gmail.com with bars free activation in the subject line. This is your activation code and this is your download link. The zip file will also include README instructions file. The quickest way to install a script in InDesign is to open Scripts panel. If it's hidden, reveal it through the Window menu, go to Utilities and then Scripts. Next, right-click the user folder and choose Reveal in Explorer. Enter the Scripts panel and unzip the downloaded file. If you'd prefer, you can create a separate folder in advance. To refresh in InDesign, close and reopen the Scripts panel or the user folder. The README file contains instructions for installation, activation, and usage that looks like this. Activation should be done in the following way. Let's start a new document in InDesign. Start the script with double-click. First, we need to import the email address and provide the code received. If the activation data is correct, we receive a confirmation, activation, and expiration date. The script is ready for use next time we start it. Now, note the default state of the Layers, Paragraph Styles, Object Styles panels, and Swatches panel. Just for the demo, let's create some sample objects. A text and a table with the copy data from Excel. Prior to starting the script, we may pre-select the data from the text frame, whole table, or only selected cells. In all cases, the pre-selected data is loaded in the data field of the script window. We may also start the script without pre-selected data. In this case, we have two options. Either to type the data values directly in the data field. The data separator could be either a comma, a space, or a combination of both. Keep in mind that number 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6 with space in between are two distinct numbers. For a floating point, use a period symbol. To create a new series, hit Enter and type your data on the next line. The second option is to copy-paste values from an external source, such as Excel. In that case, the pasted values appear separated with tabs. However, the tabs will automatically be converted to commas once you leave the data field. Let's leave all settings by default and generate our first bar graph. Bar graphs are positioned according to the 0 points location in the publication. So our graphs do not overlap when creating a new one. We must either move the pre-selected graph or the location of the 0 point prior to starting the script. If you pre-select the bars of the existing graph, all its data and settings are loaded upon starting the script. Let's take this one and, for example, change the size, add vertical lines, and category text to create a new one. A single undo command cancels the script. To resume, a single redo command is also enough. Let's have a look at the menus and settings. On the left-hand side of the main screen, we have the data field, info bars regarding the mix and man data values, the estimated max and min vertical values for the plot area or grid of the graph, which contains the bars. Changes in the data field affect the info bars regarding the max and min data values, the estimated max and min values of the grid, filter values, and the step of the horizontal grid lines in the Grid Options tab. The step is automatically changed to match the range of the estimated max and min values. For example, if the range is between 0 and 10, the default step is 0.2. If the range is in tens, for example 10, 20, 30 up until 100, the step value becomes 2. And for a range in hundreds, it becomes 20 and so on. The step may be adjusted manually. A smaller value means more lines. Changing the step results in an automatic recalculation of the estimated values so that they remain divisible by the step value. Estimated values may also be changed manually, but only values divisible to the step are allowed. Breaking this constraint causes the alert and reverting to the last accepted value. There is no restriction on the magnitude of the estimated grid values. But if the estimated values are not outside of the min-max data range, some bars will stick outside of the grid. The fields on the left-hand side are always visible. At the right-hand side, we have tabs for additional settings. With the Bar Options tab, we set up the size of the graph. Keep in mind that this size specifies only the size of the grid and the graph themselves. The text frames are not taken into consideration because they depend on the text and the font attributes. A checkbox for selecting either color or black and white bars follows. An option for selecting whether the values should appear inside the bars or not. You can always check the value of a single bar by selecting it with the Direct Selection tool. The value will appear in the Script Label panel. Gap is called the space in between bars in case of one bar series only, or the space in between groups of bars when we have several bar series. The filter is useful for excluding some extreme values which would cause the other values to be too small and unrecognizable. For example, let's delete the point here and change the value to 123. The graph will look like this. We could ignore the value 123 by applying a filter of the values for up to 8. In this case, we must manually set the proper step and estimated value. The filtered out values are substituted with 0. With the Grid Options tab, we set up the horizontal and vertical lines of the grid, an on and off checkbox for the lines, the step for the basic lines. But remember, changing the step affects the estimated min and max values of the grid. The length of the lines. By default, the length of the horizontal lines is equal to the graph's width. For the vertical lines, it is 3 mm by default. The length of the lines changes automatically when the size of the graph is changed. Major, thicker lines at every nth line, in this case the 5th. This value must be a positive non-zero integer number. With the Grid Text tab, we set up an on and off checkbox for the y-axis value labels, whether the labels should appear against the major lines only. Paragraph style to be applied. On the first use of the script for a given document, the paragraph style named graph text is automatically created, but any other existing paragraph styles may be used. Checkbox and text area for the categories names that can appear under the graph. We could either type or paste text here. If this field contains more symbols than required, the additional text is simply ignored. The separator is a comma. And again, an option to choose a paragraph style for the categories names. The graph is built when we click the Go button. In the common case, the graph contains the following elements: grouped bars, grouped grid lines, separate text frames for the X and Y axis texts. Additionally, in the Layers panel, layers for the grid and bars are added. The texts are considered grid elements, so they belong to the same grid layer. In the Object Styles panel, a graph group is created. Inside it, we have styles for the bars, the basic, and the major grid lines. In the Paragraph Styles panel, the style for the graph text is created. The necessary number of random color swatches are created and named bars 1, bars 2, etc. We can amend these according to our personal taste. Using the created styles, we could easily and quickly design all of the graph elements. Those design preferences will be applied to all of the existing and newly created graphs for a given publication. A hidden gem: for the minor edits of bar values, we can select a single bar with the Direct Selection tool. Starting the same script, we can change only this bar's value and the graph data would stay consistent. Making edits this way, other values are not recalculated and the grid is not redrawn, which means that it is possible that the newly edited bar will stick outside of the defined graph size. Thanks for watching. Your comments and suggestions are more than welcome in InBar's Facebook page. Happy InBarring!